What if we can positively impact society by reshaping the mindsets of young men? And while we're at it, let me ask you, what does it mean to be a man? My name is Dennis Meralda, a father, a teacher, a coach, a mentor, and a principal with over 2 decades of experience shaping the minds and characters of young men across the United States. If these questions resonate, if you're a young man looking to improve your life or a parent looking for tools to help your son become the best version of himself, the Building Men podcast was created for you. What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Building Men podcast, or welcome back if you have been here before. I just had an opportunity to connect with our guest today, Luis Regalado, and in the conversation with him, just as we're getting to know each other for a couple minutes, didn't think I was going to take the angle that I will on the podcast, but I'm really interested in not only his work in the business world and the branding world and what he's doing with social media, but also as a dad. I can tell immediately, like, real recognizes real. I can tell this dude is a great father in a very short period of time in our conversation. So we'll get into that a little bit as well. So Ricky's a dynamic serial entrepreneur transforming the cleaning services industry. So we'll get into that. Myself, the son of a blue collar worker who my father, as you know, listening to the podcast, he owned a painting business. So I got, I kind of cut my teeth in that world for many years. My first job I was going into my freshman year of high school. So I was 13, 14 years old, right around that time frame. Obviously, if you're listening to the podcast, you know the challenges that I've had in the relationship with my father, constantly looking for that male role model in my life, and I didn't have it in my father. One of the things that he did teach me was the importance and the value of, like, putting in a good day's work, like working your ass off. And so I'm interested to hear what Ricky's experience was. Ricky, good to meet you, man. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Oh man, hey, like you said right before we got on here, I had looked up what the show was about and what you were about, and I'm excited to share what I got to share because this is a touchy subject for me, just because I'm building up my son,
Yeah,
and my sons right now. So,
and one thing that you recognize as a father too, I mean, I could tell that you're very intentional as a dad. But one thing that you recognize really quickly is that the lessons that you teach your son, they are caught and not taught. So there are certain
yeah.
things that you can say to him, but he's watching every single thing that you're doing all of the time. And you have a really finite amount of time where you are Superman to your son, right? And so when you have the opportunity to be that Superman for your son, you got to take advantage of those opportunities, which you obviously are. But let's go back in time a little bit, Ricky. Let's go back in time to you as a young man growing up. Pick a point of reference for us in your upbringing. Talk to us a little bit about who you were as a young man, say in middle school and in high school. And you had mentioned a little bit before we got on, relationship to your father. So who was your father to you at that point growing up?
Oh yeah. So my father, Jose Luis Regalado, he was, yeah, I mean, he was an immigrant, right? We're 100% Mexican American. My father was from Guanajuato, Mexico. He had tried to come over here 3 times. Third, went right back. Fourth time was the lucky charm that he met my mom and got into the country and stayed in the country. But I remember him always saying that he came here to get the opportunity to work and build something.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he came from his father, my grandfather, they had land, farming. It was, he was part of a big family. A lot of Latino families are large families, right? Especially those back in the day. So he came from working as a young man. So he didn't go to school. He went to actually one day to kindergarten and never went back. He didn't get his first pair of shoes. So he was, I think, 14 years old. Up
Wow.
until then, he had chanclas, is what we call them in Spanish, just like sandals. So but I've known now more about my father in the past few years since his passing. So my father passed away in 2019. But it's crazy how they say that if you start to learn more about the different stories of your father or your mother afterwards. Like his family and his brothers, my uncle, love him to death. They share so many things, and I'm like, hey, where was all this while he was alive?
Right.
While he was alive, but no, he lived a tough life as a young man growing up. So he didn't share a lot about that. All I know is what I saw. So when I was young in junior high, I didn't see my dad too often. Like I saw him on the weekends. During the week, he worked 2 jobs. So like While I was away at school, I would come home, catch him for a little bit, and he would be back at work. He was laid off at times, so I did see him at home when he was laid off, and I seen him struggle with that and not be happy about that. Right? It's like I'm here to work, and now I don't have a job, and my son is seeing this. So I know he didn't like to talk about that too much. He wasn't a father that really shared a lot of that information. I learned from him more from what I saw versus what he told me. But later on, it changed. So as we go into the episode, it'll be fun to share with like how it switched, and he did start to actually
Yeah.
speak and share intel. But while he was in working mode and I was in growing up mode, I saw things. Is how I learned.
To learn more about our programs, including one-on-one mentorship coaching, the Foundation, our Building Men online group community for young men, or to bring a Building Men experience to your school, check out our website, buildingmen.io, or click the links in the bio. Now, back to the show. So I'm interested to learn about, like, now you're a dad, you have sons. As we're recording this episode, your sons are 6 years old and 3 years old. And again, you're intentional about things that you're doing with raising your kids, but we also recognize that the world is very different now as a parent than it was then. Is there something that you wish you could go back and you wish the world was more like this for your kids? I'll give you an example. While technology is a great thing, we all, having the world at our fingertips, if I wanted to know the capital of, freaking Yugoslavia, I could figure it out right now by just asking Siri that question. I don't even know if Yugoslavia is still a country actually anymore, but so that's a great thing. But the way that kids are tethered to technology right now, I think, is a disservice. I wish we can go back in time to where kids were just, you'd wake up in the morning, especially we're recording this in July, it's over the summer, and just get outside and just adventure and play and just be kids for the next 12 hours until the streetlights come on. That's something that I wish. Is there anything that you wish your kids could experience that you experienced growing up that they might not have the
Yeah.
ability to right now? Something like that.
Oh man, that's funny you say that because I'm in the middle of doing it. The past 2 weeks, like we live in a nice area, nice neighborhood. But it's even nicer because it's a cul-de-sac. So we're at the end of the
Yeah.
cul-de-sac. So I'm the house that in the street we face everything. So we can play in the front yard and I can see when cars are coming. And I say that because we have a big light post right in the middle of the cul-de-sac that gives us light. So I play soccer outside with my son right now. He's big into soccer. My 6-year-old, my 3-year-old he runs around,
Yeah.
pees in the corner naked. He's in the peed outside mode right now. So my 6-year-old though is, I'm trying to show him it's okay to play outside till the light comes on, right? Like the lights come on, it's dark. Let's go inside and take a bath, right? Like I was used to that. My mom would say play across the street. We had a park for a long time of me growing up, and she was always like, Rick, just make sure you're back by the time the light post is on. That means it's getting dark. That was my signal. Like I would play for hours, to your point, soccer, basketball, all that. So I'm doing that with him because up until 2 weeks ago, it started to dawn on me, like, we're playing in the basement. Yeah, we're playing some games, but we're in the basement when I come home every day after work. Why are we in the basement? We should be outside. It's the reason why I bought a house, and it's for us to be outside. So yeah, man, it's the outside part. Because again, nothing against electronics. I actually think it has helped him. Like there's things he's learning that I did not know
Right.
by 6 years old. But vice versa, I think it's hurting the socialization of kids, like how they socialize. Like I see a lot of my friends' kids that they're very timid and like their heads down in a phone or on a computer. And I'm like, dude, you're 6. Like, get out there, like talk, fall down, get hurt, cry, go through the emotions, right? Where if you get to school or like junior high and you haven't done that, I'm scared for him for that. So I'm trying to get him to do all this now.
One of the biggest mistakes I believe parents make with their kids is solving all their problems for them and not letting them go and adventure and play and get hurt and fall down and understand.
Oh,
Like, even when you fall, you can pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and get right back at it. And I think when parents solve all the problems for their kids, their parents are afraid of letting their kids feel either bored and or frustrated. And when we solve kids' problems and we don't let them experience frustration and we rescue them from all of the things that are going on, that's how entitled kids are created. So if your kid
Oh,
is 17, 18 years old and they are entitled and you're like, how did they get to this point? It's because you didn't, when they were 6 years old and 3 years old, you didn't let them solve their own problems or figure out like, hey, this is going to suck for a little bit and I can handle whatever this is in front of me.
oh man, amen to that. Like I'm guilty of that. That is my wife is trying to get me in gear because that's what she tells me. She's like, Rick, you cannot solve let they're crying, they're pissed off, go to the basement or go outside or figure it out. We have wine time. We're having some wine right now. Go get upset, right? To your point this morning. Oh my God, it's so funny. I'm dropping my son off at soccer in this huge soccer field. It's like 8 fields. There's like 100 kids playing. And I get out of the car, I get my son, I walk with him, we talk, I'm holding his hand, I get him all the way up to the field that he's playing at. I walk back. I see this mom drop the same, that kid had to be the same age as my son. On the drop off, half a mile, she's like, all right, I'll see you when he's got to go. For himself, he walked himself to the field. I'm like,
Huh.
what the hell? I went and walked my son all the way to the field. She dropped off and said, I'll be back to pick you up. Even something like that. I'm like, interesting. Like,
Yeah.
you could see the son was trying to figure it out. Do I go this way? Do I go that way? Do I go, oh, okay, I go this way. Like, shame on me again this morning.
but even recognizing that, so
Oh,
seeing
I
that as
did,
a
yeah.
parent and being able to say, okay, let me be more critical of myself. I think as parents, what we do too often is we we don't share the difficult things that we're going through. It's like, well, when I was a kid, I scored the winning goal. I did this. We don't tell our kids, especially as they're getting older, and we could wrap this back into your dad sharing his stuff as well. But we make our mistakes as parents. We're doing the best that we can. But to the point about the soccer, I found this interesting as well. When we were growing up, and I'm definitely older than you, but when we were growing up, there was the idea of just like creating the game, the play, whatever. Kids now, again, I'm like standing up on a soapbox, Ricky, talking about this, but it's we as parents were like, well, we need to get them into the rec soccer league at this age so they can start playing travel at this age so they can join the US national team at this age to track them along. And what we need to do is like go outside with your buddies. Here's a ball, make up a game, figure out the rules, and they'll have as much fun, if not more fun, because the other thing that they need to do then is, all right, what's a fair team, right? They need to
Yeah.
manage that themselves. All right, what if somebody there's a foul? What do we do then? What if after the game is over, one team blows out the other team? Are we going to switch teams? Are we going to leave them? So they're managing so many different like
Yeah.
communication strategies, leadership strategies. How do you work together as a community? But when we're like, all right, you're going to go play with Coach Johnny over here, and everything is like already structured out for them, so they get an opportunity to learn things and do things for themselves. All right, I'll
Mm.
jump off the soapbox because I want to revisit you growing up with your dad. So you're involved in the cleaning services industry. Was that something where you got into working for your father, with your father? Like, how did you get into that world?
So man, it's funny you say that. Like a lot of the stories, so I interview cleaning business owners, and that is
Yeah.
a common story. Like the second generation, because they saw the first, they got, it was a family business. Definitely not the case for us. My father worked as like he was a pallet driver, forklift driver. Like he did anything general labor in the warehouse. That was my father's roles all the time. He didn't speak English. He didn't really have a driver's license. He didn't. It was difficult, man, for him to land any kind of like higher paying job. So it was always my mom was the one who was the the kind of, not, I want to say man of the house, but she was the breadwinner
Yeah.
of the house. So I learned from both. Um, but yeah, my dad just did the best he could. So I would see that. And to me, that was just hard work. Like blue collar was just, I looked at blue collar work, warehouse work, manual labor. I mean, you kind of cut your teeth with that, and you grew as a person. But to me, as a man, doing these kind of hard physical jobs, I didn't really know what like being a banker or a
Right.
trader or white collar. I had no idea what white collar jobs were. None of our family, everybody worked in blue collar, the entire family.
So one thing that I recognize as well, I'm a big fan of Mike Rowe, Dirty
Oh
Jobs.
yeah.
I love what he's doing. And I think what's happened in our society, and it probably was around the time that I was graduating from high school, it was expected that you were just going to go to college, right? And college is not for everyone. And I learned that as an educator, as a principal, as a
And
father
you're in the
myself.
education
Yeah,
system.
and
Yeah,
I'm
you're in
like,
the
listen,
education.
college is not for everyone, you know. And you might be better off as a young man, like really dialing in on what are you passionate about, and take that passion. And Mike Rowe talks about this as well. Take that passion and then explore opportunities, but bring your passion with you to all the different opportunities and other doors
Mm,
might open. But also, Ricky, understanding the value of like being able to roll up your sleeves and do the work. And again, this might trigger some people, but in this generation, I think there's more of a people are a little bit more hesitant to do
yeah.
the work. They want it done for them. We're in an immediate gratification society that it just is done
Well, it's all over
immediately,
social
right?
media.
Yep.
It's all
So
over social media. They tell you you could build, like, even in our space, like build $1 million cleaning company without ever having to clean. What? What do
right.
you mean? Like, how is that? That's not possible. No, don't tell me that.
So now your son comes to you, and 10 years from now, he's 16 years old, and he's like, Dad, I understand the stuff that you taught me, but you know what? I'm going to be an influencer. I'm gonna get a tripod and videotape myself doing a couple things. I'll do a dance or two. I'm gonna make my $1 million doing that. I'm gonna work an hour a day. I want the riches and all that stuff, but the hard work. How are you gonna talk to your son if he comes to you with something like that?
Oh man, I hope we never get to that point. Even though he's already becoming my co-host of the
Right.
podcast. But no, like, to your point, man, like we literally just told him about chores. What chores are this past week. So I think, yeah, as parents, that is our job, because dude, that not that it's a scary moment. Again, that is a career. It could happen, but like, what are you influencing people on? Do
Mm-hmm.
you have a skill set? Do you have a tool set that you built as a young kid that you have a reason at 16, 17? Like, what gives you the right to show somebody else how to do something? Like, show me that. Show me the years of growth that you had. Oh, if you can't show me that, then oh man, that's gonna be a tough conversation, because I see that happening a lot. Like, he watches it. He knows Mr. Beast. I'm like, congrats to Mr. Beast for being able to impact 50-year-olds all the way to 5-year-olds. Like, how do you know Mr. Beast? He's like, oh, on YouTube he does this. I'm like,
Yep.
oh, geez. So it's a conversation we will for sure have, because he loves to dance, he loves to sing. I mean, I think I got a singer on my hands. This guy memorizes songs like I would not imagine. Like, I can't memorize much, so I don't know. Time will tell. That'll be a difficult conversation, but I think it'll be a good one to have, where he's gonna see me, my vein pop. When my vein pops, that means
Yeah.
I'm like really adamant about something, because he has seen us work, right? He sees us go out to work every day. He sees us get our hands dirty. So I'm hoping that resonates in his brain, that, you see a lot, that it should make an impact on him in the future, that work isn't just being in front of a camera,
Right.
or having a social media channel. There's a lot of behind the scenes. So I think as long as they see behind the scenes, we should turn off.
That's good stuff. You mentioned that your son has a good memory, right? He
Mm.
could memorize things. As we're getting to know each other, Ricky, you were talking to me about you and your son have this ritual every single morning where there's like a father-son mantra where it's like you say something and then he says something back to you. Talk to us a little bit about that. I found that fascinating.
Oh yeah, man. So I can't take credit for it. I heard it on another, I think it was a reel or a podcast a few months ago, and the guy was just saying it was like a voiceover. So I was like, I'm gonna add a couple things to it, because me and my son already, like, our motto at I don't know if I have it somewhere, but our motto at the companies are stronger together, and in the R, it's our company R. So like we bring both of the words together, and it's stronger together. So he said he knows that mantra. Like, I'll say, Nico, who are we? And he's like, we're, the Regalados. And what do we do? We help people. We are. And he says, stronger together. But I saw what this guy was doing with his father, and I brought it all together. So every morning for the past 2 weeks, we start off with, and I'll say Nico, and then boom, he's ready. He's like, I go, knowledge is, he says, power. I said, the more you learn, he says, the more you earn. I said, we never, never. He says, give up. And then I added those other three. It's who are we? The Regalados. Because I want them to know our last
Yeah.
name and like it means something. And our name is a legacy. And it's the more you say it and know it, the better. And then I just added what do we do? We help people because I think that's just in general. If kids start to learn that and it's in their heads, they'll know that helping people is just something we should value and do all over the world. And then end with we are. And he says stronger together. So he's living by it.
Yeah.
To be honest, Dennis, like I could see it, and then when he makes a mistake, I'll correct him on it. And I'll say, Nico, do you think that's a stronger together habit right there? And he's like, no, Dad. And then he walks away and he gets
Yeah.
pissed. He knows when he did. He knows
Yeah.
when it's not. So
That's giving him an opportunity to course correct with your guidance there. The other thing I would think too, as he gets older, is bring in the like a developmental need for autonomy with our kids, making sure that their voices are a part of the space. And one thing that you could potentially do with him is pick an arbitrary age for your son. It might be 10, it might be 11, whatever, as long as you're continuing this process where he gets to add in something. Like once I see that you're living this for the next year or 2 years, well, I'll help you work on it, but you'll add one of the lines in there, and then you'll be able to teach it to your younger brother or something like that. Especially if it's like a ceremonial thing. Boys need those rites of passage. Boys need
I
that
like
moment
that.
where they feel like I got to this point and I've shed this previous boyhood version myself as I step a little bit closer to manhood. But that practice is really cool. Again, during this podcast, you mentioned you pick up things along the way. This is something I wish that I did with my son. He's 19 years old right now. I wish I did that when he was 5 or 6 years old. It'll be something that I'll encourage him to do with his son. And it could be something I do eventually with a grandchild in the future. But I appreciate you doing that. So what you're doing right now, I mean, you're not only mentoring your son, you're developing this Regalado legacy, right? Is like you're developing a legacy. And what part of that is, it's like the branding of your family and your ideals and your morals and your ethical code with your boys. How does that translate into what you do in your own profession, right? One of the things that you do is you talk about building a brand identity. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, man. I again, I would never have thought I'd be in the cleaning industry, right? I went to school, as you can see, I got a Jordan portrait here. I'm a big basketball fan here in Chicago. I thought I was going to be a sports agent. I went to school for sports marketing. Like the whole path was built out for me. Nothing went as planned. I didn't even get into the colleges that I wanted to get into. All that to get to, I'm a cleaning business owner. 12 or 11 years ago in 2012, me and my wife both quit our jobs. My cousin, he was a Marine he was back from being a Marine for 7 years. He wasn't happy with his job. And all three of us were like, you know what? Let's buy our cousin's franchise.
Mm-hmm.
He's moving to Mexico. We have no idea what we're doing. We've never owned a business. We have no money, but we're going to take a loan out and we're going to risk this because my cousin and I are 3 months apart. We're like brothers. We're best friends. And my wife she was my best friend at the time and still is today. But we're like, we got each other. So we can get this done. So fast forward, starting in the cleaning industry with no idea, no clue what we're doing. What we did have though, we were a very tight knit group. Like I have a big family. I have a ton of family members. My wife has a big family. We can rely on each other. And if anything, this is going to be a nice side family business hustle. Fast forward 10 years later, we got over like 350 employees. We're in 20 states. We went from 0 to 20 million in revenue. One of the fastest growing Latino cleaning businesses in the country. And what you said earlier, though, that it's come to fruition with us. Is I stopped looking at it like ashamed because first couple of years I was like, man, I go to a networking event. I'm like, I'm not telling them I own a cleaning company. Are you crazy? Like, I got a bachelor's degree. I didn't go to school to own a cleaning. To where flip that, I go in, pump in my chest. I own a cleaning company. It is a family legacy business. We do this, and that. Like, I got to pitch down for everybody the minute I walk in. I'm happy to be Ricky the janitor, Ricky the cleaner, because it opened the doors for, we now own a maintenance company. We own an epoxy company. I launched a software company that's helping cleaning business owners. I launched a podcast for the cleaning industry. My brother's now our CEO. I have 24 family members in the company. I have some of my best friends that work with us. Like it has made an impact across my entire network, but it all came from the cleaning company. Like that opened the doors to opportunities that I never would have had because then my finances got better. I understood what banking was. I leveraged my banking because I was building a high revenue business that now banks look at us like, hey, you're investable. What do you need? You want to go do this? Awesome. We'll lend you money. Like I didn't know none of that. I didn't grow up with any of that in my knowledge bank. I had to build it on instinct, but I had my family support. They had my back, right? Like that's where the Stronger Together brand came, and our identity became, yes, we're a family business, but we operate. We have high performing individuals that operate in the business. Just because you got the last name doesn't mean you get a job. Like you have to perform at your highest level, or we're going to find somebody who does. So yes, we're family, but we also perform, right? And if you don't, then you're hurting our name, you're hurting our business. So we gotta, there's the door. I don't, we don't do that too many times, but it was, and now it's for me to be a tech startup founder, which is what I spend my time on now. Again, a lot of times the chips were stacked against us. I hate to say that. I never use that. I use it as a chip on my shoulder, but I never led with that. Like we're a minority owned business contractor. I don't lead with that. I win that business because we're a good business and we deserve to win that business. Not give me a chance because I'm, this, that. No, I mean, I'll use it to our advantage, but we like to say we're operating at a level that gives us the right to ask for some of the business we win. And as a tech founder raising money now from VCs, that was another hurdle I had encountered that I didn't realize a small percentage of Latino tech founders actually raise VC money. So to your point on building men, like even me in the Latino community, I want to make sure they know, like, dude, do the blue collar route, build a business, go from being the employee to owning your own business. The minute you do that, go build other things because you got the door open, right? Hardworking people and ethics in this industry or in this day and age, it's not there. There's few and far between now. So the ones that make it and build something, I mean, the world is theirs on conquering how many things they want to do. But it starts at the young age for sure.
So a lot of questions from that answer. I appreciate it, Ricky. One that I immediately thought of was being in a space where you are working close with family members, right? There's potentially that could go south quickly. You really have to have difficult conversations up front. There needs to be very, very direct communication. It can't be the ambiguity. So boundary set, like how do you go about managing the family part of what you're doing, and then what happens if so-and-so isn't pulling their weight, or you find something that is not, how do you keep the family structure intact if there needs to be that other conversation?
Yeah, man, it's not easy. But I feel like it's your approach. Like something my dad always taught me and I talk about is like, he's like, Rick, there's not much I can give you. There's no money. There's no, I didn't build anything for you and this and that. He would always talk about the things he couldn't do for me. But I remember the things he could do. And like the things he always told me was just be positive, be kind, and just be good to people. So I took that with everything that I do now. And even when we first started, my cousin and I, we get along great, man. Like we are honest, we're transparent with each other. We butt heads, but we are two people that, and this is where my wife gets so frustrated with me. And she's like, me and him can fight. 2 minutes later, we're hugging each other. We're good. We're like, good. We're good. Did we get over that?
Yep.
All right, cool. Let's move on. My wife's like, how do you do that? Like, we just got in a fight. There's no way I'm going to talk to you for at least a day. And I'm like, that's a long time, babe. Like, are you sure you want that? That's all. Like, I'm over it already. She's like, how do you get over things so much? So I think that gave me a leverage and really a step up on a lot of other people. Is me and Tony complimented each other. My wife complimented me. So at the top, we were very positive and molded well. So then that just kind of fell down the organizational chart. And as we brought people in, that was how we hired and built off of. Was like, hey man, at the end of the day, communicate, be good with each other. We're going to make mistakes. you're probably going to get 5 chances because that's who we are. Um, but by the 6th one or something, you're not, it's not going to work out. But just we look at the good first. Make me not, or I forget how it goes, but like I trust you day one.
Mm-hmm.
Do things that make me not have to trust you and doubt you. Now we're going to have a different conversation. So a lot of people ended up just making the cut there because they just saw what we did and we're like, man, we're just going to fall in line like this. We love working with you guys. Like, let's just keep it going. Now it's not, we've had relatives that we had to let go or things that happen. And, but I think it's our outlook and our approach, man, for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, and you're doing things the right way. You're communicative. You put in the sweat equity that goes along with it. So you're also leading by example. So now if I'm a young man, I'm into a space where I'm like, okay, I'm working right now. I'm busting my ass, but I can see myself becoming an entrepreneur, a business owner in the future. And I'm interested in creating and building a brand. What are a couple steps that I might take right away if this is something that I'm interested in? Or like, all right, so I'm doing Building Men right now. I want to continue to grow the Building Men brand. What are some steps that I might take?
Man, I would. You said it right off the bat was the brand identity. I heard that a couple years ago. I forget who I heard it. I think it was Gary Vee or something. One of those people, and it stuck to me because I was like, well, I have a brand. Like, we brand. I print shirts. We got the brands everywhere. Like, you got a brand here in the box. Like, I know branding. And the way they had said it though was like, well, yeah, that's a brand. That's the brand. But like, what's the identity of the brand? What does the brand stand for? How do you live it every day? If I didn't know you, and I would still know that you are that brand and things like that. But I started to think of like, all right, so we would go to conventions as this is now as Rosalado. Rosalado is the cleaning company. We would go to these big conventions where, again, at that moment, you're now just a needle in a haystack. Our conventions, there's like a million cleaning companies in the world. You go to there's 15,000 people at this show. They're all cleaning business owners. How do you stand out? Like everybody does the same. They fall in line, right? Until there's those that don't. And that was us at the moment where we wore black dry fit shirts. We wore Air Jordans. We had all black on. We would put some white on. Like even you stand out right now looking at the Building Men color scheme
And
that you have in the shirts, right?
there's a pair of black and pink Jordans right there
There, I
on my
see it. Yeah, yeah. So like, because it's the moment somebody says, "Well, that's not how it's done," or "That's not." Are you sure you should be sticking out like that? Like, yes, and I'm sticking out for good reason because now 4 or 5 years later, from we attend all the conferences and everything. People know who we are because we're the Men in Black, right? Because the whole team goes and everybody's dressed the same. So yes, that's image, right? But then we act out on it. So then we welcome you. We're humble. We're family oriented. We shoot the shit. We talk. We have fun. We enjoy. We smile. We laugh. We could be serious. We could flip the switch and talk business. But that whole like ambiance that we give somebody, that's how our identity starts to grow, and that's where we are today. Like we're not perfect by no means. We freaking got issues every single week. Something's happening, but that's a part of culture. Is it's not perfect. It's uncomfortable. Like the more you grow, the more issues you have. Like every single milestone of growth is a whole nother boatload of problems that you're going to encounter. But I would tell anybody who's listening and like the young men, the number one thing for me too is like problems are opportunities, man.
Yes.
Every single problem that we've encountered. And that's where some of my team members are always just like, dude, how are you so positive? I'm like, well, because that's the only way to get through a problem. It's like, let's find out, let's get to the other side by creating an opportunity.
Totally agree with that. In the moment, it's easier said than done when you're going through that difficult time and you're like, I know I'm going to learn a lesson from this. And things I tell my kids is there are no losses, there are lessons, right? Whenever you're going through it, you can be, woe was me, this sucks, or all right, let me take this, dig into it, learn as much as I can, and either not make that mistake again or use this as a springboard to whatever the future success is going to be. So, Ricky, my son is 19 years old. He's doing an internship. His major in college is materials engineering. He goes to the University of Delaware. And so part of that major, it's a lot of science, it's a lot of math, but it's almost like determining what are the best materials that you can use that will make a golf club hit a ball further or make the car more aerodynamic or whatever. So it could be like, how do you make a gummy bear this way that, it's still kind of gummy, but it's not gonna, melt. Things like that. It's a totally niche major. He's fascinated with it, and he's always loved working with his hands. He's doing an internship this summer, and part of the internship, it's working with an engineering firm, and he's getting paid 18 or 19 bucks an hour. He's working 40 hours a week, which talk about a life lesson for a kid, especially he's doing a lot of work outside and it's 98 degrees right now in New Jersey. And he's coming home, Dad, it's a long day. It's really sucks working. And I'm like, I get it, but like you're going to learn so much about yourself by going through that. So anyway, he comes home, say he has, after a week's worth of work, after taxes, he's making $650 a week or something like that, right? Good money for a kid who's 19 years old. So now he has this amount of money that's coming in over the summer. The job will end, mid to end of August, but he has a couple bucks now. What would you recommend that he do with that money? He could go and spend it on, crap beer in college, or he could take a couple bucks and be like, I want to be really intentional and smart. One, if I want to start building a brand, or if I want to start investing it. So what's something that he could do right now, or any 18, 19-year-old listening to this podcast can do?
Yeah. Man, that's a great point. I never even thought of it like that. But ideas that I have, again, because it's still not like it's like a lot of money that you could go
right,
like make a purchase.
Yeah, a little bit.
Especially with so he's got his major. He knows what he wants to do. Sounds like he's, again, you're getting paid to get the experience to learn for something that you want to do in the future. He's in a great position. But like his extra money, man, I will tell you, it's easy to say put it in the bank. Like I was always, even to this day, yesterday, I had my bills, paper bills. I would pay I love paying bills. I love getting myself out of debt. It's like freaking, I'm weird. I'm weird like that. What if because you touched on it, social media is a big thing. Online is a big thing. Branding, him as a person, like this career that he may get into right out of college, that may not be what he's going to always do. But what he'll always do or be is, what's your son's name?
Dennis. He's Dennis Jr. We call him Denny.
So like, imagine if that was his website. He had a personal website. You could build that $500. You could build a website, but he used that as his platform and his home base to start to share his journey at 18, 19, and like invest in himself there, right? Like, hey, this was me year one. Document some videos, put it on the website. Because then by the time he's 23, 24, he's going to try to enter into a career. The money he invested in himself, all online, digitally, is now his portfolio and his resume. So when he goes to try to find something, he may not even want to do it anymore because now he's created a brand within himself, a personal brand. So I think reinvesting in himself, his name, his identity, no better investment. Because now remember, digital's forever. Like you said, my son's going to watch this podcast or this in 5-6 years. It's never going anywhere. So that's what I would do.
I think that is brilliant advice right there. I absolutely love it. He listens to the podcast. I'm going to say, make sure that you bookmark this one and come back to it again in the future. And I love that you saying you love paying bills. Listen, I can send a couple of mine your way if that's going to, get you going.
Okay, my bills. My bills.
So Ricky, talk to us now. Like, what is the future of what you're doing, right? So you sit here, you're at the top of your industry. You've grown it to a spot. You mentioned you're in 20 different states. You've made it a thing. And the other thing, quickly pause and say, I can connect with the whole, the immediate thought of like, well, I went to college and I'm just a business owner, like a cleaning guy. I get that. For me, my identity was attached so closely to being a principal, where once I left that world and I have to talk about what I'm doing right now, there's a piece of saying I was a principal. Along with it came a level of somewhat like a status type thing. Like, all right, well, I know this guy makes about this much money. He's educated. He has his master's degree, this, and this. So it was almost like a thing that was like feeding this ego that I had in some weird way. But once I was able to step back and say, okay, who am I really and what am I really here on this planet for? And it has nothing to do with the salary. It has nothing. It's like, what can I do to make a difference in the world? So I just
Yeah.
wanted to just appreciate, because I had definitely had a connection to that idea. But when you think about what is in the future for you, for your business, for what you're doing in the next couple of years of your life?
Yeah, man. So I got a lot of different visions of what we're doing, right? Like the family business is continue to grow. My brother now runs a business with my cousin and my mom and my aunt and my friends and all that. I mean, obviously that business itself is very near and dear to me. We hold a special place because our name. So the name Regalado is my last name is Regalado. My cousin's is Pedroza. It's the two names together. So it's somewhat a family name business, that we're creating. Um, I hope to employ thousands of employees, right? Our number one thing is create jobs. With Regalado, we want to create jobs. By creating a job, that means that we want an account. If we want an account, that means our revenue goes up. So we don't drive by how much money we make. We drive by how many employees we can employ. Because that's the foundational piece. That means that we're growing a big business. This route, that's my focal point right now, is I'm using technology to create a platform to now go back and help other cleaning business owners to build their businesses and create opportunities, because 93% of the cleaning industry, the business owners can't hit one. Not that they can't, they're not at 1 million in revenue. So 93% of cleaning business owners are under 1 million. There's over 1 million cleaning companies in America. That's very fragmented. And I hate to be cheesy and say $1 million in revenue, but building $1 million business, like that comes with some opportunities that you're going to get now. Like you can employ people, you have opportunities that open up that you wouldn't have had, right? So it's just a strange number that gives you the opportunity to start to build. So like you go from an entrepreneur, a solo entrepreneur, to now a builder, you're building, to then now you can lead other different companies and brands. So I'm getting to the leading point is where I'm at right now. I'm in the middle of building and leading. Like I built a couple of entities, teams are running, people are running those businesses. I'm now building Route up so then I can then lead Route and the rest of the brands to continue to make an impact. Like my dad instilled in, after he got over the fact that we were building, because he was very scared of every move I made owning the cleaning company. He was like, Rick, who's that? Is that a new van? What's that equipment? I was like, Dad, we're growing. I have to invest in the business. Like I'm going to spend money in the business. Why? But we're good. Why do you got to spend more money? Don't spend more money. Like, let's just build a nice little business. I'm like, no, I got aspirations. I want a big business. He freaked out. It was like his money. I'm like, Dad, it's the company money. It's not your money. So using that though, is I know others want that. And I'm not saying education is not the direction to go in. Everybody should go learn and be in that environment, because I think that helps with socializing too. But building businesses leads you to like there is no cap on salary or how much money you can make or what you can do. Like, a lot of roles in business or employment jobs, there's caps.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's like stages you have to get to, right? Where like as a business owner, there is no cap on what I can do. I work my ass off and I can uncap opportunities. So my route is to make an impact globally. We have over 400 users of Route in 6 different countries. My podcast, Candid Cocktails, has over 50,000 listeners just in America, over 2 million impressions across the world. Our next biggest market is Australia, then South Africa, and then now Latin America is growing. Like people know who we are across the world, because cleaning is universal. Like the only thing that really changes is currency and how you measure square footage. Other than that, like the way you operate a business here is the way you're going to operate a business in Australia. So I'm being mindful of that and just producing content and building a platform that gives cleaning business owners tools to grow and scale their cleaning companies. So our main pillars are software is one, community, education, and just empowerment. Like how do we use technology to empower our minds to build our business? And then also have a mentorship piece. So like, again, the giving back piece is big to us. Like I didn't know how to do it in the beginning. I just would get messaged all the time and I'm like, yeah, this is how you do it. But I was doing it for them. I didn't realize that doing it for them doesn't help. Like show them how Now that helps. So that's what we're using technology for right now.
Love that. And all those ideals that you just mentioned, Ricky, you take that and it works in any industry,
In any business.
everywhere,
Oh yeah.
every across the board.
Yeah.
It's just good pillars as far as connection and leadership are concerned. My last two questions. First, I want to do a call back to in the beginning. You said later on in the podcast we would certainly get to your relationship with your father. You teased it a little bit when your dad was like, "Hey, don't buy that mop because we're going to spend more money. Just use the old mop. That's fine." Talk to us a little bit about how your relationship with your dad evolved. And you said when he was older, he started to share some other things with you.
Yeah, man. I like when early on, and now I see it though. Like I see myself doing some of the stuff he was doing. So it's fascinating. Like I'm busy. I'm trying to work. I'm trying to build everything for the family, for my sons, and I get caught in the moment. But now I see when he was caught in the moment, and I'm like, man, it was for good reason. My dad was just working 2, 3 jobs. And like the one thing I'll touch on that always felt, I have a special place in my heart is like all his 40 plus years, the minute he started working with us is when he made more money. So you're talking about a guy who made $20 an hour for never made more than 20 his entire life until he worked with us. And I can only pay him so much because again, right? Family business, like what's the market value? I can't pay somebody 50 an hour for what everybody else gets paid 10 or 20. So to see him smile and be like in his best place, because he was making money. He had his own apartment. He worked with his 2 sons. Me and my brother were both there. So that was a dream for him. But I didn't talk to him too much about that. I knew my dad by actions. He really wasn't the dad like how I'm doing to my son right now until later on. As I grew up in my 30s, I could say we started to have talks. And like he started to tell me about why he did that, or are you sure you want to do that? And like he was a very quiet, timid guy that did not like confrontation at all. Like now I see it. Like he always just said, Rick, just be submissive.
Mm.
What do we got time to argue about, right? So I've learned how to be submissive because of him. Yeah, there's times, don't get me wrong, I'm going to argue, stand my ground. But it's just one of those things where, man, time is everything. And if I'm going to spend time being angry and pissed off about this or that, he wasn't. He could have been angry about a lot of things. And he just did it. He like let it go. And he started to tell me about that. Like, just, it's not important. Why is it important to be upset about what that person did? You got no control over what that person did. Let it go. Like, move on. Let's talk about something else now. So I would go to him in the business when it like shit. Sorry to swear, but shit was getting tough. Like I had nobody to talk to. I would talk to my cousin and me and Tony or Marley, and that's it. But then there's things I'm like, Dad, what about this? And he would just again his value was just on how calm he was, and he would just share. Let's just get through this. How about you do this? Listen, take it in. Don't give them too much feedback. Just let them know you listen and let it go. Time will let it go. So I take that with everything I do now. So it's just crazy how so many years he didn't talk to me about personal things like that. But I know why now. Like
Right.
he was busy working multiple. Like I don't have time sometimes to talk to my son. So it all starts to like, it's funny what they say. Like as an adult, you tell your kids don't understand, and then you become an adult. Now you're like, oh,
Right.
that's why.
Totally. I appreciate that too. And it's interesting when we're being really intentional with our kids, the lessons that we're teaching, calling back to the beginning of the episode, like how you're parenting your own kids with the mantra that you're using with them. Your kids, they probably don't, your youngest definitely doesn't, but your son probably doesn't remember your father. You said if he passed away in 2019, right?
Yeah, my 6-year-old knows of him. He was a year old when he passed, but we have pictures everywhere. We pray, at least once a week we'll pray and talk to him from above. So like he knows of my dad and Abuelito, but my 3-year-old, yeah, it doesn't, man. That's the tough part is
Yeah.
they'll only know him through pictures.
And the stories that we tell our kids about our own upbringing, and I mean that's life is about stories and relationships, right? So I mean, the whole idea of, not taking everything so seriously, not worrying about what other people think. That's going to be a lesson that you teach to your boys about something your father taught you about the importance of, putting in a hard day's work, and that hard day's work could be rolling up your sleeves and doing the stuff, or being on the phone and talking to this person and emailing it. Like, that's still a hard day's work as well. What's another lesson that your father taught you? It could be something that he specifically told you, or something that you saw him do that is really, really important for your boys to know this lesson, and it's coming from your grandfather.
Yeah, so that whole thing of just being good to people, right? Like the formality or the action or the way you speak or the way you approach any kind of scenario is just do it with good intentions. Be good, be kind, and the results, whether you like that or whether you think it's the right result or not, like you did your part, right? Like you did what you could control. You can't control anybody else in the world but yourself. um, just doing that, like every day you can go to bed and wake up knowing that you did what you needed to do and control. And by being good, again, like dude, anger and like the society of negativity, that weighs down heavy on people, and that will create depression and create anxiety and create all these mental issues that happen. So not that I don't deal with my own mental health scenarios here and there, but the one thing that gets me by every single time, that my dad always said, just be good, be kind, be positive. And like that, I just say that over in my head.
Yeah.
And I get through everything, man. Like I have some bad days and I'll say that back to myself and I literally forget and I move on.
Good stuff, man. Before I ask my last question, Ricky, where can the Building Men audience find you?
So I have a website. I don't update it too much. I got to get better at my own advice that I gave you for your son. Is I got to update my own personal website. It's rickyregalado.com. But I'm very active on Instagram. That's at Ricky Regalado, and LinkedIn, Ricardo Regalado.
Awesome. We'll put all that information in the show notes. My last question for you, and before I ask it, I just want to let you know how much I appreciate this conversation. I found a ton of value from it. You seem like a great dude, man. You seem like a guy I'd love to hang out with, grab a beer with, just to shoot the shit a little bit. So thank you for being on the show. Last question is, somebody's listening to the episode and they get to this point, they got a ton of value from this conversation already, and they could press stop after this question is over, and they could do one thing. And by doing this one thing, it could really turn their life around, change the trajectory of their life. What's one thing that they could do right now, Ricky?
Well, man, you said something that triggered something that I appreciate and I live by now, is that we control ourselves, right? We write our own story. We write our own narrative. So if you treat your book or treat your life like a book, every day is a page. So write that page yourself. Every year is a chapter. So write that chapter yourself. So just, again, you dictate what the outcomes are. There's nothing you can do with controlling the outside exterior environment. Yes, it may be shitty. It may suck. You may be in a bad scenario. Things happen. Time will get you through it, but like, write your own narrative, write your own story. You are your own author.
I love that. That's the first time I've heard that answer. And the thing that I love about that too is it gives people a little bit of pause in those difficult moments, recognizing that the best stories that are told are going through the hero's journey, right? And no story is a great story unless it has that little bit of turmoil, or you have to, pick yourself up and, battle through the challenges and fight the dragon or whatever it is in front of you. So I absolutely love that answer. To the audience, if you got any level of value from this conversation, please consider rating the Building Men podcast, reviewing it, and more than anything, share this out with anyone that you think might get value from the conversation. Ricky, my man, truly, truly appreciate you being on. To the audience, go one step further than you thought you could go. We'll see you next time on Building Men.